Round 3 of the 2018 Pro Supercross Championship takes us to Angel Stadium, Anaheim for the second time this season. Our championship leaders Logan Lightsall and Russ Chapman will be doing all they can to extend their leads in the points. They will have to deal with the new Triple Crown format this week, but both riders successfully qualified straight into their respective main events. The new format brings 3 main events for each class this week and will sure provide some great racing. Qualifying this week was the tightest yet. Connor Lins took pole in 450s by half a second over former red plate holder Jeremy Shipley, who was closely followed in by Alexis Leclerc, and leading the 250 charts it would be the Swede Ollie Skolman, just ahead of Jake Rose and Jack Haley. Let's get to the action from all 6 main events here in Anaheim. The first 250 main of the night here in Anaheim got underway with the Dutchman Tristan Botteram leading from Jake Rose and last week's 250 rider of the night Flo Lucassen. Ben Seberg was in 4th place with Jack Gatlin just behind. Botteram would make the first mistake of the night, allowing Rose into the lead. Lucassen and Gatlin made it through cleanly also after Seberg got held up and lost a very small amount of ground. Lucassen then came up short in the rhythm section after the Supercross triple and got tangled up with Gatlin, handing Seberg the 2nd place. Gatlin remounted just ahead of his teammate Harry White in 7th place. White, who was making his first appearance in a main event this season, looked fast and was looking for a way around Gatlin. 2 Brits led the way on lap 3. Jake Rose looked very strong and was holding off the charge by Team Green Kawasaki's Ben Seberg, who also had a hard charge in Holden Coat closing in. Our top qualifier Ollie Skolman was not having a memorable main event one here in Anaheim. The Swede was way down in 16th place on lap 4 behind ART racecar rider Xander Bigwood. Everything looked good for Jake Rose here in main 1, but an error of judgment by the Architect rider resulted in a big crash. He passed the lead to Ben Seberg, and with only 1.5 laps to go, it was Seberg's to lose. As they received the white flag, Seberg found himself under severe pressure from new relaxer tyre rider Holden Coat. This was the kind of race Seberg would have to win if he wanted to become West Champion in 2018. A small mistake from Coat handed Seberg some breathing room though. Main event 1 was taken by Ben Seberg ahead of Jake Rose after a last lap battle with our 3rd place finisher Holden Coat. Getting the whole shot in the 450 main event 1 it would be iLab rider Alexis Leclerc. He would be followed by Magic Racing's Anthony Rouillard, who would be super happy with this start, but he was already under pressure from Connor Lins. Leading lap 1 here was Rouillard after capitalising on a Leclerc mistake. But the Kawasaki mounted rider was now under threat from another iLab rider in the form of Russ Chapman, our current 450 points leader. Chapman was in the form of his life and would be difficult to stop from this position. Anthony Rouillard looked like he belonged up front, but the pressure of both Chapman and Lims seemed to take over. The Frenchman pushed too hard into turn 1 and surrendered his lead to Chapman. After making the bold decision to move up to the 450 class, Yannick Müller was showing us why. The German was locked in a battle for 3rd place with Alexis Leclerc. Jeremy Cohenhauer was having a great race here. After surviving the gauntlet of the LCQ, the MV Films rider was going toe to toe with the best. Lap 5 saw him engage with his teammate Adam Holm. Holm looked very comfortable on the track this week and seemed to be getting to grips with his new Honda machine. Former red plate holder Jeremy Shipley was not having an enjoyable race here. The Suzuki star was all the way down in 16th place over halfway through. Could he mount a comeback and rescue some valuable championship points? Russ Chapman was inching out a gap on Connor Lins. The iLab.com rider was dealing with both lappers and a severely roughening track very well. If he could get a good start in all 3 races, surely he would be the man to beat. Hunter Root had found his way around Leclerc into 3rd place. The Team Vulcan rider was way down at the start, so it was a great effort to get back into the podium spots in this 8-minute plus 1 lap race format. Russ Chapman took the white flag with a manageable 3-second lead over Connor Lins. The youngster then grabbed a handful of Husqvarna power and high-sided coming back onto the start straight. This would be disastrous for Chapman as he would remount in 5th place and slimming his chances of being the overall winner tonight. Lins inherited the lead and would surely hold on to take the checkered flag. With just 2 corners to go in main event 1, Connor Lins had a group of lappers ahead, but the Englishman showed experience and picked his way through the lappers and brought his Architect Honda across the line for the win. He would be followed home by Alexis Leclerc, and Hunter Root took the 3rd place. Fresh off his victory in Moto 1, Ben Seberg looked fired up. He fired his machine out of the gate and grabbed the all-important hole shot. He would lead Ollie Skolman into turn 2. Mats Årstad was surprising everyone inside Angel Stadium by sitting in second place. He looked very comfortable in doing so also. He would soon become under pressure from Relax's Jack Haley though. Our first sighting of red plate holder Logan Lightsall tonight saw him sitting in 5th place, just ahead of the Australian Clint Martin. Martin was looking for redemption after a mechanical error forced him out of Moto 1. Off Canberra we saw a change for the lead. Seberg jumped wide off the Supercross triple and had to give up his lead to Jack Haley. Mats Årstad was still riding great and holding his own in 2nd place. Jake Rose was having to exert lots of energy after some early mistakes. He probably knew at this point that Seberg was in the top 3, so he was giving it his all to make his way through the pack. He would find himself in 11th place behind Madcape's Ryan Mahan on lap 7. MB Films' Logan Lightsall had moved up to 3rd place behind Mats Årstad, and he was starting to look himself after an average Moto 1. Phil Ball was having a good ride, but couldn't defend his 4th place from Ben Seberg. Seberg got great drive down the inside of the whoops and made the pass. But Moto 2 would be won by last week's Houston winner Jack Haley. The relaxed retired Suzuki rider looked smooth all race and had now set up a chance of the overall. Logan Lightsall crashed with a lapper with 1 section to go, and this gave Ben Seberg a 2nd place and put him in pole position for the overall come race 3. Phil Ball put together a great ride and came home in 3rd. 450 main event 2 started with a hole shot by ART racecraft rider Jeremy Seabolt. He took advantage when Alexis Leclerc went into turn 1 too hot and took a bunch of guys wide. Seabolt would find himself just ahead of the underperforming Tyson Fresquez. Fred Heather would surprise us all by passing Jeremy Shipley and move into 3rd place. Could the privateer show everyone what he could do and maybe secure a team ride? Lap 3 saw Russ Chapman buried in 15th place. He was in the middle of an intense battle with Tienan, Root and Ruiard. A very different start to Moto 1 for the number 29 machine. Could he progress through the pack and make his way to the top group? Connor Linz had now made his way onto the rear wheel of Jeremy Shipley. Shipley made a small error and gifted Linz an easy pass into 2nd, and at this point, Architects Linz was looking very good for the overall victory. Even though Linz and Shipley were running excellent laps in 2nd and 3rd, they were still being slowly caught by Alexis Leclerc. Just like in Houston, Leclerc looked so effortlessly fast in the whoops. Jesse Mullins was having a much better race this time around and was in 5th place, although he did have Atom Holm closing in. Once again, Holm looked super fast, and it looked as though within a few laps we would be seeing a battle between the two. Connor Linz and Jeremy Shipley could not be separated. We were now on lap 10 and they had been fighting for position from as early as lap 3. Linz looked in control and seemed to be dealing with the roughening Anaheim track very well. Shipley also looked much better and looked desperate to keep the overall points tally close. Russ Chapman had been making moves and would find himself in 6th place. This is a great surge from the youngster, but he didn't seem as comfortable here at Anaheim as he was in Houston last week, but the iLab rider was still giving it his all for the fans. Connor Linz had now taken over the lead and still had Jeremy Shipley in tow. Both riders had passed Seabolt when the Kawasaki rider went too high in a berm and went off track. Atom Holm was now in 7th place and he was under attack by the veteran Hunter Root. Holt seemed very composed though and kept his focus on going forward and not worrying about Hunter Root behind. Connor Linz would once again take the win here in Moto 2 ahead of Jeremy Shipley, but it was then discovered that the MXSEMF officials had given Linz a cut penalty, meaning Shipley would take the win instead. Linz would still get 2nd ahead of early race leader Jeremy Seabolt. The longest race for the 250 rider tonight was kicked off by a hole shot by the Dutchman Tristan Botteram, but he would throw away the lead early on and hand the baton over to Flo Lucassen, who had Tyler Fry and Mats Årstad close behind. Ben Seberg would once again pull off a great start and found himself in 4th place just behind Madcape's Ryan Mahan. If Seberg could be consistent, he looked set to win his first overall of the season and also move his way up in the point standings. Lap 4 would see an epic battle for the lead. Flo Lucassen was still out front and he was leading Matthias Lidman, Jake Rose and Jack Haley. Ryan Mahan was also in the scrap as a lap rider after a big crash on lap 3. Jack Haley was the new race leader, but close behind was Jake Rose. This was the beginnings of a battle that went on for the whole race. Both riders were looking to show the fans inside Adel Stadium a great moto. After a 12th and 14th place in his opening two races, TMFR's Harry White was having a great race in 8th place. Considering this is the young rider's first pro night show, he was showing he could mix it up with the best 250 riders out there. Logan Lightsall was having another steady ride in 4th place. The MV Films rider didn't look as fast as the leading three, but it looked like he knew this and was looking at the bigger picture. Lap 11 saw more drama out front. Jack Haley made an error of judgment and went down. With Jake Rose so close behind, Rose could not avoid Haley and went down also. This once again handed the lead to Seberg, surely cementing him the overall. Lightsall seemed to step it up a gear late on and moved around Rose and Haley to give him second place. This was a great ride considering he didn't feel too good on the track this week. Ben Seberg would cross the line first and get his first overall win of the season. He would finish 5 seconds ahead of Logan Lightsall after the American had to go around the berm in the final corner, and he just edged out Jake Rose. That wraps up all the 250 class racing for the night here in Anaheim. Congratulations to Ben Seberg, who took the overall win from fellow Brit Jake Rose. Taking the final step on the podium was last week's winner Jack Haley. Logan Lightsall would finish 4th ahead of Volcom's Phil Ball. Holden Coates showed speed all night and finished 6th overall, just beating Ryan Mahan in 7th. Jesper Bai claimed 8th, and rounding out the top 10 overall was Harry White in 9th and Matthias Lidman in 10th. This week's 250 Rider of the Night goes to Harry White of TM Factory Racing. Tonight was his first night show in the Pro class, and the youngster improved throughout the night and ended with a 12-14-7 score. Once he gets a few more mains under his belt and runs with the best more often, we should expect to see him breaking into that top 10 every week. In the final race of the night, it was Alexis Leclerc with yet another great start, and we were lucky enough to stick a Gatlin Media helmet cam on him to capture it. Tyson Fresquez didn't seem at his best again this week, but he'd be in second place behind Leclerc on lap 2. He would have pressure from the Finn Valtteri behind him though. After getting run wide by Leclerc on turn 1, Linz was buried early on. The Brit would be in 14th place on lap 3 and would have to put a composed charge through the pack, otherwise chances of his overall were slipping away. Once again, MV Films rider Atom Holm would find himself at the sharp end. He was putting together a great night. He would find himself sandwiched between Hunter Root and Russ Chapman on lap 6. The battle for the lead was hotting up at the midway point. Leclerc was struggling for consistency, and it looked like Fresquez was looking to prove a point. These two had stretched a gap of 11 seconds over the impressive Atom Holm. Just one lap later and the pair were at it again. This time there wasn't enough room for both bikes, and they collided, sending them both over the berm. This meant that chasing Atom Holm and Chapman closed up significantly. Holm looked really fired up to get his first ever Supercross win. He had closed the gap on Fresquez to just 1 second. The crowd were on the edge of their seats, and we're about to see another breakout ride here in Angel Stadium. The same lap saw Fresquez collide with a lapper, allowing Holm to triple past. The MV Films rider was leading for the first time tonight. It would be interesting to see if he could hold his nerve. Holm wouldn't have it easy though, as he had an iLab Husqvarna breathing down his neck. Russ Chapman had closed the gap, and really was being a test for Atom Holm. It still looked like it would be Linz taking the overall. He had climbed his way up to 6th place, and had Leclerc and Fresquez not too far ahead. Jeremy Shipley had creeped his way into 2nd place around Chapman. Not much was said about Shipley tonight, but he was still producing good races and keeping his title chances alive at this early stage of the season. But after a remarkable night, it would be Atom Holm taking the final race victory. A great performance from the American. He would head an All-American podium consisting of Jeremy Shipley in 2nd and Russ Chapman in 3rd. That concludes the racing in the 450 class here at Anaheim. The new Triple Crown format made for some exciting racing. Connor Linz would take this top step on the podium ahead of Jeremy Shipley in 2nd and a delighted Atom Holm in 3rd. Russ Chapman would be disappointed with 4th after squandering winning opportunities, and his French teammate would come home behind him in 5th. Hunter Root was 6th ahead of a steadily improving Tyson Fresquez. Josh Hamilton brought his new Transmoto machine home in 8th, just ahead of Jesse Mullins, and concluding the top 10 is Magic Racing's Anthony Ruillard. Our 450 Rider of the Night goes to Atom Holm. The MV Films rider showed speed, consistency and class all night and took a step on the overall podium. This was a massive improvement from the earlier rounds, and if he continues to make this sort of progress, he'll be sure one to watch. That ends round 3 of the championship, and our first ever Triple Crown event. As always, the racing was top class, and the riders gave it their all. Leaving Anaheim 2 with shiny red plates will be Ben Seberg in the 250 class and Connor Linz in the 450 class. Both lead their respective championship classes by just a single point. Will they deal with the pressure in Glendale next week? Tune in to find out.